What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of You Can Throw Hard, my friend. Today's topic is going to be all about how to actually get mobile as a pitcher. If you don't know who I am, my name is Kyle Kringen. I coach and develop pitchers to throw gas fully remotely. If you're interested in working with me one-on-one, then hit the link in the description and apply for one-on-one coaching to work with me directly. So what is mobility exactly? A lot of people have the misunderstanding of what it really is and how to train it, which I'll get into later. But the main thing that I need to hammer first is that mobility is different from stretching. So if you are a pitcher who's like, oh, I do stretch all the time. Well, one, how well are you doing that? Because most of the time I'll hear pitchers say, I stretch all the time, but I'm still not mobile, or I'm still not flexible. What does all that mean? So first of all, the distinction between mobility and flexibility is that mobility is at the joint and flexibility is the muscle. So you need to be clear on what it is that you are talking about when you're saying mobility versus flexibility. Mobility, because it is at the joint, we're talking about joint function. So the joints function to do various things. Are you limited by the joint's ability to actually function? When you train mobility, the goal is to take your joints range of motion and improve it over time so that your active range of motion, meaning what you can actually put your joints through, versus if someone were to push you or if a weight were to push you into a certain position, that would be passive. So active is what you yourself can control. And when we are doing mobility work, we are trying to improve our active range of motion through active reps. That is mobility in a nutshell. But flexibility is at the muscle, and when you train mobility, meaning the joint, and obviously the muscles are connected to the joints. So if you train mobility, you are simultaneously improving your flexibility. But if you are just stretching, that is geared fully towards flexibility and not as much mobility. So there is a difference there and a much different approach on how you train each one. So that is the approach that we're going to talk about mostly in this video. How do you actually approach mobility training? Because a lot of guys will say, oh, I do mobility, I do stretch, but I'm not seeing the results. So why are they not seeing the results? The main reason is they don't know how to go about training mobility. Now that we've clarified that it is at the joint, we need to ask ourselves, okay, what are the joints that I'm trying to gain mobility in? Most commonly for pitchers, they are lacking hip mobility, internal and external rotation, and they're probably lacking T-spine and shoulder external and internal rotation. So T-spine mobility as in being able to rotate properly, because obviously we are rotating at very fast velocities, right? So we want to be able to have the ability to both rotate fast but also get into deep ranges when we are rotating. Pitchers need to be caring a lot about mobility because during the throw, the body is put into very extreme ranges of motion. And the reason we want good mobility in those deep ranges of motion is because it'll allow us to potentially apply more force to the ball if we can close the gap at a fast rate. So not all the time you're going to see mobile guys actually throw harder. They might feel good, but if they're not utilizing their mobility properly, then it's not going to necessarily gain them velocity like a lot of guys think. A lot of guys will make the mistake thinking, if I get more mobile, I will throw harder. If you are not actually utilizing your newfound mobility, then it is not going to directly translate. Is more mobility going to help you in other ways? Most definitely. And should you learn how to utilize your mobility on the mound to potentially improve your velocity? 100%. Your approach. So how do you actually train mobility? We want to take a joint by joint approach. Ankles, we have the knees, we have the hips, we have the spine, and we have your shoulders. And absolutely cannot forget about the wrists. So especially because pitchers will be doing a lot of this, supination, pronation. If you have good wrist mobility, that is going to be a plus for sure. When you take this joint by joint approach, what does that mean exactly? Well, we want to hammer each joint specifically to improve the range of motion. So at this very moment, you have a current active range of motion at each joint. So when you are deliberately training mobility, you are trying to improve from your current state to a more improved range of motion that you are currently not at. So the approach needs to be, instead of how a lot of people will treat strength training. Strength training is often done very quickly. It's over within, sometimes 5 seconds, 30 seconds, like under a minute, basically, depending on what you're doing. Strength training is a much different approach, right? And it's a much different feeling and a much different mindset when you go into doing that. The mobility approach is a different intention altogether, because the intention is to improve your range of motion from what it is now to where you want it to be. That process needs to be very intentional, right? If you know what you're going for, which is more improved range of motion, then the intention when you are doing a mobility exercise needs to be every single rep that I do, active reps, you're taking your body with good posture through an active range of motion, pushing past a little bit of discomfort, sometimes using the contract relax method, which is you are pushing against that force that is pushing you into a deeper range of motion. You're pushing against it, and then you're relaxing and letting that force or that load push you a little bit further. This is my wrist mobility, right? If I am pushing, this is the force here, whether it's like your own body or an external load like a kettlebell or whatever it may be, just some type of force, right? And it is pushing against my active range of motion. I can only do this much. And then you have something pushing past whatever your active range of motion is. Now it's passive. You're going to be actively pushing this way, right? Pushing, relax. And now push a little bit further against it. Once you find that new range, press, relax. Boom. So you can see right there that I already instantly gained a little bit of range of motion, right? So we want to take that same approach for every single joint. And it's not that complicated when you look at it like that, as long as you know what exercises you should be doing. How you actually progress is not having just a simple routine that you go through, but when you go into the gym and deliberately train mobility, you are trying to actively improve on your range of motion. Sometimes it's for maintenance. Sometimes you just want to get back to what you have. If you have good mobility, sometimes you just want to maintain it, right? But if you are someone who has bad mobility, you want to actually improve your range of motion over time and make it progressible. Every time you step in the gym for a mobility session, you're a little bit better, the same way you would with strength training, you're a little bit stronger. But now the intention is I'm a little bit more mobile, a little bit more loose, and I have a little bit more control and stability with my joint. The other less talked about thing when you are progressing mobility is that you are not just trying to improve your range of motion, but you are trying to gain stability and strength in your newfound range of motion. Squat, for example, and you can only squat to 90 degrees. You want to improve your hip mobility, your ankle mobility, so that you can get into a deeper squat position. If you always train 90-degree squats, right, and then you all of the sudden have more mobility, you can get into a deep squat, but you don't train that range from full depth to 90 degrees, you don't train that, then you don't have any strength there or stability in the joints because it's a newfound range of motion. So what you need to do is strengthen, and this is just a squat example, you can go for everything, but you need to gain stability and strength in that range of motion if you are to utilize that range of motion, because at the moment you have a deficit right here. So once you address that, you build strength and stability in that full range of motion, then now you have strength, stability, and power through that full range. And you can apply that to everything. So you don't want to just gain mobility for the sake of it. You want to gain stability and you want to gain strength and power out of that newfound range of motion as well. And when you have all of those things working for you, then you can apply that to the throw. You can get into deeper ranges on the mound and you can apply force, close the gap quickly, right, through a larger range. And if you are mechanically sound and you can actually properly utilize your mobility, then you're going to be throwing harder because of it. But don't think that just getting more mobile is going to inherently make you throw harder. It's a process, it is a step and a necessary one to throwing harder, but you need to understand how it actually works. So I hope that all clarifies, what mobility is, how you can actually train it, and the purpose for it. But if you are somebody who wants to get really dialed in on a plan, not just for mobility, but also for strength, for power, for nutrition, for lifestyle habits, and improving all of that, so you can ultimately throw harder, increase your opportunities, like getting more offers from schools you actually want to play for, transferring out to a better school, or just starting to get looks. If you're a sophomore or a junior and you're trying to play in college, you want to get more looks, you want to get more eyeballs on you, you know you need to be throwing harder, right? So if you are someone who wants to get dialed in on a program that's going to help you move the needle towards your goals, then hit the link in the description and apply for one-on-one coaching. Once you submit your application, there'll be a link to book a call with me. On the call, we'll go over your situation and how exactly I can help you go from where you are right now to where you want to be and bridge that gap. So if you're tired of waiting around, you're not dialed in on a plan, you're kind of just guessing, you're doing it all on your own, you're listening to social media, pitching coaches, whoever else, you have all this noise, and you know if you were to just get dialed in on a plan specific to you and your needs that you would throw harder, then definitely hit the link in the description and apply for one-on-one coaching. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. God loves you.